It's another chance to share. What was some of the ahas that you came up with in the answer to these 3 questions? Just very brief assessment of what you discovered. And Todd, over here.
I think our table, the biggest barrier was time.
I'll speak more.
And being too busy and not intentionally building in margins in our actual schedule and also mental schedule.
So you had too many things going on in your head to think about other things, and a busyness that matched that. Okay. Why do you think that Jesus noticed Zacchaeus?
He climbed up a tree, but not just that, he was wealthy and climbed up the tree. So we thought it would be like someone wearing a Gucci suit climbing a tree. That would draw attention.
Okay. So he was kind of a what would be the right word, an anomaly, wearing a Gucci suit, today, climbing up a tree. You would expect it maybe of somebody wearing a t-shirt and jeans, right? Okay, good. So he kind of stood out. Anybody else?
We thought that Jesus noticed Zacharias because he wanted him, because he needed him. He was searching for him.
So he knew that Zacchaeus was searching, that Zacchaeus wanted Jesus. Did I reflect that?
He was in need, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, another one?
Yeah, we also noticed, or we thought that Jesus was actually hearing from the Father to notice Zacchaeus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that maybe just like my story of Rebecca, that God was saying, that's the guy, you got to spend some time with him. Yeah, that could very well be. I believe that that's true. Okay, one more comment about this exercise in general. What did it teach you?
Jesus showed Zacchaeus eagerness and desperation and loneliness.
So if I heard, Zacchaeus was desperate, he was lonely, he was missing something in his life even though he had a Gucci suit, right? Yeah.
He's lonely, he cannot belong to the people. And,
right,
yeah.
He was probably despised by a lot of people.
And then he is eager to climb on the tree to see Jesus. Yeah.
Okay, so back to you, all right, are you eager to climb a tree in your Gucci suit? Are you willing to lay down your busy head, activity and your time to pay attention? It's convicting to all of us. I admit that when I'm going through the grocery store line or whatever I'm doing, it's all about me getting out of there and how fast can they serve me, But Jesus was always looking to others, and he knew what the Father wanted to do, whether it made sense or not, in our own minds. So, if you look at the handout on the 3rd page of the handout, the 2nd and 3rd page, it talks about the common barriers that prevent us from paying attention. And one of them is the pace of life. We're really busy and rushed, keeping our focus on ourselves. And the lesson there is we need to slow down enough to notice, take even 30-second breaks, like just 30 seconds, might be the difference between noticing what God's doing and passing it by and missing it. Self-focus is another one that's listed here, where we have to be willing to have our own agenda interrupted. What if we welcome a divine appointment, like I eventually welcomed the Rebecca appointment? Third is the Christian bubble. We are with Christians that we know and trust, and we're not really thinking about those outside of the Christian bubble, like noticing people in our everyday life, our person in the next cubicle, people that we sit with at a kid's sport event. God may be doing something on the bench that's even more significant than the goal that was scored on the field. And finally, our attitude. We need to view people the way God views them, instead of being judgmental about people that we don't know. Luke 15 talks about the lost coin, the lost sheep, the prodigal son, that one sheep out of the 90, the 100 that God is looking for. So sadly, we're not going to be able to do more with noticing, because we're going to look at these other 2 modules before we end. But here's some takeaways. What happens when we notice people? When Jesus noticed people, here's what happened. His response was compassion. His heart was moved to care for people when he noticed them. We can do the same thing. We can learn to notice without judgment. Noticing people could move us to compassion, to see them like sheep without a shepherd. When people become real to us, we, with real lives, with needs, with hurts that can't be solved by the world's solutions, we can allow God to move into our heart, to give us that kind of compassion, to listen with spiritual eyes and spiritual ears what he might want to do with that particular person. We can pray secretly for that person, okay? We call that praying behind somebody's back. It's about the only thing you can do that's acceptable, that isn't behind people's, or that is behind people's backs. They don't have to know you're praying for them. As I sometimes sit, in a movie theater, or another place where I don't even engage with that person, I can still pray for them, and they don't have to know it. But maybe God bless them later in the day because of my prayer. And allow the Spirit to do what only the Spirit can do. And just asking the question, what are you doing here, Lord, that I can pay attention to? So on that note, we are now going to move to listening. And in the listening module, and Paul, I'm going to have you pass out those another module. The reason that I'm giving you these is that we're just doing a little bit of a dip into these, but you could take these and do them with your small group, or I guess your gospel community, or with another friend, and just go through this module. There's a lot of good things in there, good questions. And this time, when Paul passes that one out, I'm going to ask you to do something a little bit different. Who scored high on facilitating when you looked at your assessment? Did anybody score high on facilitation? Because this time I'm going to ask each table to stay more as a table. And for those online, if you could stay, maybe depending on the size of the group, stay together or break it in 2 groups, so that maybe there's like 4 or 5 that are in the conversation. And what I want you to do, we're not going to be able to do this whole thing, but I want to highlight. I want you to start on the first page. And the way that these things work is you take turns reading, okay? Read the big idea. Listening communicates God's love to people in profoundly real ways and opens up opportunities for connection. You don't have to read that now because I read it. But, take a few minutes on the icebreaker. Have you ever been in a conversation that, people weren't listening to you? Read the related scripture and challenging wisdom, and the listening communicates love. When you get to that second page, I want you to discuss question number 2, which is basically, do the assessment quickly, and then discuss question 2, and that's all you're going to have time for. So if you all scored low in facilitating, then choose who you think is the best facilitator or who wants to facilitate. Facilitating means you're not teaching, you're just keeping the ball in play. You're making sure that people get a chance to answer, and you're also being mindful of the time and the instructions. And so what we're going to do for this exercise is we've got probably 12 minutes for it. And so anyway, we'll see you back in 12 minutes.